Hello, everybody. Welcome to my talk. I am GNULinux Loves All. Also, my name is Timmy. I go by both. So I like to use Flow software for music because music is a creative process and we want to have freedoms to explore, and that is essential to the creative process, is that we are free to explore, and that's why GNULinux is the perfect operating system. People here at FOSSY, this may be I don't really have to explain this, but then I do this for the folks that there's too many people that are not familiar with why Flow software is so essential. Really plainly, we have these human tech rights here to privacy, security, repair, internet, education, and speech. And it's kind of lame in a world where we're set up with these expectations that to do music, we have to use bad operating systems. GNULinux is the greatest operating system of all time. It is Flow software licensed under the GNU General Public License, which is the greatest Flow software license of all time. GNULinux consistently outpaces proprietary alternatives in freedom, price, and functionality. Human tech rights and music technology should not be mutually exclusive. So now talking about the oldest in music technology, the harmonic series. People have been describing notes as frequency ratios for thousands of years. About half a century ago, we came up with this tuning called 12 Edo, which stands for equal division of the octave. It came from this here, and that's kind of important to understand, is that what happened then is through 12 Edo, we have lost a lot of the most fundamental part of music. If you play a single tone, you hear a chord of harmonics. It's not just one tone, it's multiple tones. So we want to be able to explore those tones because it turns out they're fundamental to music as well as synthesis as well. If you are writing a synthesizer, you're going to be dealing with this question of what's going on, these notes, these chords, what are these? They're not quite what's on my piano. I can't just go to my piano and play the exact same thing. So we need to have access to this music technology because it's ancient. And we have a problem now where it's just a trend that people love to push their proprietary software to help you solve your problems. And that's lame because, as I said, this is ancient. Why do we need the newest proprietary software to explore something so foundational to music? Let's look at some waves here. There's a couple ways to think of a single note. We have the frequency ratio, 1/1. When we're talking about frequency ratios, it's really not that hard if you start at the very beginning and you get every single step. And so we'll go one step at a time so that then you can start to see the possibilities. So 1/1 means that you have two notes that are the same note. And what that means is that they are at the same frequency. We can see that here with these two sine waves. They are the same note because they oscillate with the same frequency. Now, for 2/1, when we're going in order from simple to complex, 1/1 is the most simple relationship you can have. 2/1 is the next increasing complex. So when you look at your piano and you go from one shape to the next, that is when the notes repeat. You go from A to A. The notes repeat when you reach this ratio of 2/1, the simplest relationship after 1/1. We can hear what these sound like, and I can show that to you. Here, I have mosaic chord. And what makes this keyboard so awesome is that it is only frequency ratios, which is special because when you go to your standard keyboard, it is using a different mathematical system. And so you can't actually, you're not defaulting to these notes, and the notes conflate to where one note on a piano represents multiple notes over here. The frequency ratios are printed on the keys. So 1/1 is right here, and then you can see from here to here, that is the octave. The keys are the same shape. That's when just like on piano, you can see the same thing here. Go times 2, so that's 2/1, and then 4/1 up here, that's another octave. It's double octave. From there to there. Next is 3/2. And now we have reached prime 3. This is also called, here at the end, a perfect fifth. And it sounds like this. Next, 4/3. And I can reach these by going on the mosaic chord and playing note 3/1 and 4/1. And then I can take both of those down an octave. 4/2 reduces to 2/1, and then 3/2. That is what I played before. When you start to get involved with this, the math is reducing fractions. It's what we have been. We have a great opportunity that we've already learned all this in school, and it's so important to music, and it's not that hard. And once again, it is super essential. Sometimes when you're doing this, you do a little more math, but then once you learn the math, then you don't need it. So then you can start playing without thinking of the numbers. You only have to do it once or twice, and then you kind of get it, and then it becomes natural. So that should help invite you into this way of thinking of music. The mosaic chord makes this very easy. Now, chords. So then what we can do is take harmonics 2, 3, and 4. Simple chord, and we are still, the highest prime here is prime 3. So we're still pretty basic, but we're starting at the right point so that we don't get lost too soon. This is called a power chord. It has a fifth without a third, which we will see next. So when going through the harmonic series next, we can make it up to where things get more colorful and more exciting. 4, 5, 6, 7. This is called a down 7 chord. If you look over here, you see 4 over 1, 5 over 1, 6 over 1, 7 over 1. That is the harmonics. So from a fundamental pitch, that pitch contains these notes. That means that the low note has those notes already, and we are able to access them up higher, so our harmony can blend together with the notes that are already present in the chord of the monophonic note. In this point, the lines blur. Are we listening to one note or multiple notes? On piano, this is a more clear division because we can't really access the harmonics so directly. So we tend to think, you play a single note, we tend to think that's one note. But once you can access the harmonics, then all of a sudden you're working with the harmony where one note is multiple notes. This is because a single note is a chord of harmonics. Now, to play this chord on mosaic chord, what we can do is relative to one pitch, how do we find these notes? 4, 5, 6, 7. And we can do it relative to 1 over 1. So that means we're going to take 4 over 4, because 4 over 4 reduces to 1 over 1, 5 over 4, 6 over 4, and 7 over 4. 1 over 1, or 4 over 4, that is right here. 5 over 4. And then 6 over 4 reduces to 3 over 2. And then 7 over 4. So those are the notes that are on the key, and you can hit it right there. Let's look at a couple more chords from harmonics 8, 9, and 12. That is a sus2 chord from harmonics 8, 10, 12, 15, and 18. This is a down major 9 chord. And then we can start on 10, 12, start same chord, but start on 10, remove the 8, now we get an up minor 7 chord. Now you might say those chords sound very similar. However, what we can do is get more motion by, instead of moving up to 10, what we can do is start on 10, and then you will hear more of a chord change. That is called parallel motion from major to minor, as opposed to relative motion. And now 6, 7, 9. This is down minor. 7/6 is flatter than 6/5, and 6/5 is flatter than 5/4. We can hear the difference between up minor and down minor. That's down minor and up minor again. And down major. So now here is a chart of notes in 41. So 41 equal divisions of the octave turns out to be handy because now instead of just minor and major, we have more that aligns with the different frequency ratios. Down minor, plain minor, up minor. In the middle row, you see the backslash. What that does is tells us steps of 41. The top row, the forward slash, shows us the frequency ratio. And the bottom row shows us from our 7-note system. So Re is a major second. Mi is a major third. And musicians will go between the thinking of scales in 7 or so notes, as well as 12 Ito musicians will think in 12 as well. When you look at your standard guitar, you'll notice that in the middle, there's 12 frets, and that is where the octave is, and that frequency ratio is 2/1. So that's when the notes repeat again. So similarly, 12 frets, so 12/12 is over here. That is equivalent to 41/41. So that is what the backslash represents. Going back here to these waves, now we can see in the middle the backslash, and that shows us steps of 12 and 41. For 1/1, you have moved not at all. That is why it is 0 steps of 12, 0 steps of 41. 2/1 is 12/12, 41/41. For 3/2, we can think of it as 7 frets on a 12 Ito guitar. We can also think of it as 24 on a full 41 Ito guitar. So this is why I have the 2 numbers here. And then for these chords with the highest prime 3, they all work, they're all very in tune in 12 Ito. This is a very important aspect of 12 Ito, is that prime 3 is so well in tune. It is also the same in 41. It's actually slightly better in tune in 41. The reason why this is important is because when you make it up to prime 5 and 7 and higher, that is when 12 Ito does not do very well. This is the benefit of exploring something different than 12 Ito. That could be 41 Ito or 72 Ito or others. So grabbing a kite guitar is very helpful because then you have a fretted instrument where you can explore these notes. Here, from full 41, I show when a portion of kite guitar, this is in this case, it's an 8-string instrument. Each fret is 2 steps of 41. This is called skip fretting. If you look here in the middle row, 1 over 1 is 0 steps of 41. The next one is 2, 4, and 6. And then go up a string, you have moved 13 steps. And then it goes 2 from there. This string plays odd notes. This string plays even notes. It alternates. And a benefit of kite guitar is that it puts you to the simple primes. So 5 and 7, which we cannot well experience in 12 Ito, those are the ones that we can easily hit in 41, and it simplifies in a way where we can get prime 3 as well, and we can explore these notes easily. I talk about that a little bit here. Now, what I would like to do is demonstrate what is this thing over here. This keyboard, the grid, is that kite tuning layout. I was interested in, when you convert a guitar, it's time consuming. Now, of course, all you have to do to get a guitar is walk into a music store, but the problem is they're all 12 Ito guitars. So how do we get our hands on a different instrument so that we can explore ancient primes 5, 7, and higher? This is still a prototype. That's why there's zip ties right there to hold it together. But I built this because I wanted an easy way for anyone to explore any tuning easily. And this, because there's more than just kite guitar, the types of tunings are pretty endless. There are so many different guitars that are awesome to explore. And I was very inspired by my friend Matthew, who has made so many cool instruments. And that was what inspired this, is because I wanted an easy way to explore an instrument before going out and buying and converting it. So this one here makes notes. I have demonstrated there the harmonic series on kite guitar. Let me play a little bit of this for you. This is a little bit from my tune, Ode to Creative Commons, a protector of free information. Okay, so I know that now there's only one of these 8x32 that has colors. So of course you're like, how do I get my hands on one? Well, I don't have more yet, but I do have some free software. I wrote some Python, which is how I do all my really cool stuff. And by cool stuff, I mean actually play notes thousands of years old. So why would I turn to proprietary software to do something like that? So here you can download my Python, and I will show you some code examples here. I wanted a way to do this as little code as possible and hear these notes. And it seemed pretty simple, pretty basic, pretty fundamental, and that is how I'm making this grid keyboard work. And I'm going to show you some examples because it's really cool, and I want to show you how to do it. So I have a Python shell right here. I also wanted to say I'm using Surge Synth because why would I use Surge Synth? Well, I'm repeating myself a bunch, but it's because it is Flow software license under GNU GPL, so it made it an obvious choice. So this sends MIDI over to Surge. And that's the chord. So then how am I controlling the reverb? I'm using my mouse here as a foot controller. Now what we can do is explore those same chords as earlier just by playing harmonics. I wrote a little factor method because it's important when you're taking any number, you look at the harmonic series and you're saying, hey, what's going on with that harmonic over there? How can I describe it more simply? And that's, you just factor it. It's really that simple because everything is frequency ratios, and it shows you, it basically shows you what flavor of third you're playing. And I have an example here. So this, there's a, as I said earlier, down minor third is 7/6, up minor third is 6/5, down major third is 5/4. So this allows you to play the harmonic series as a chord. Thank you. Yes, I forgot to move back. This is what I typed in there. It sounds like one big note, and it is. So this sets the tempo, and now hearing it individually, now what we can do is explore minor thirds from the harmonic series. And so I wrote this little program to demonstrate that. These are all minor thirds here. And when you see the ratio, it's really as simple as one harmonic to the other. You can really think of it as that. As you're going up the harmonic series, you have spots where one note is compared to the other. It's really that harmonic. When this plays, it will show you the numbers factored, and they are ordered from primes. So this is where the flavor comes in, the flavor of minor third from prime 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, and 19. Over here, I demonstrate what's really going on. So I have all these variables I import that start with X, and that is basically I wanted a way to do rational arithmetic and know what I'm doing. So here, this shows you if you type 3/2 in Python, it shows you 1.5. But it's really helpful when you're dealing with this that you stick in rational arithmetic in frequency ratios, so it keeps track of it. So here, when you say X 3/2, it shows you 3/2. I'm doing that by what I do is I say this, from literals import star, and that imports a bunch of handy music notation, including a bunch of numbers starting with X. And then using the backslash operator, I use 2 forward slashes. And so you can see when I say X4 backslash, using the 2 forward slashes, it shows you that's 400 cents. The cents is there's 100 cents in a half step, and this gives you a way, this shows you basically in 12 what it is. But then of course, when you say something like, let's see here, what am I wanted to do 13 over 41, then you get not 400 cents, but 380.49. So you have an easy way to explore basic operations for music among Idos and just intonation. The name is Zenidoji, which comes from Zen harmonic, Ido, which is equal division of the octave, and Ji, which is just intonation. The point is to combine them all together to easily explore ancient technology. Now, the minor thirds, I played them each from the harmonic series from the same fundamental. What I'm going to do now is play them all based on the same note. So that means they have the same, the denominator is always the same note. Or not in this example, that's in the next one actually. that example actually plays them quicker as harmonics, so you hear each of the minor thirds in context from the same fundamental, and that's why I turned the reverb up, is because they are all share the same fundamental. Down here is where they will be relative to the denominator. Now will always stay the same. The last two sound about the same. That's because there's only a 3-cent difference between them. 19/16 is very close in 12th Edo, which is 3 half steps, 3 steps of 12. And it shows you that here, where you can use the Edo as well as the frequency ratio and pick which one between them and hear them both. So that is the same example of up here, but it gives you a different context. Now you can see the thirds right next to each other and really compare them. Here's a couple more, like the math that I use. So this tells you, say, I want A4 plus 7 half steps. What knows that? It shows you it's E5. Same as multiplying time. So here's where the backslash comes from. Here's how you translate. You get it to the frequency ratio by taking 2 to the power of, and it shows you that right there. You can see here, A4 up 7 half steps is E5. A4 times the ratio, 2 to the power of 7/12 is the same thing. It's close to 3/2. As I said, 12th Edo does great for prime 3. And you can see that here. When you multiply by 3/2, you get only 2 cents difference. I can show you this just as a little calculator so that then you can see 7 half steps of 12 and 24 of 41. And you see those are all 1.5 about with a little different. What you'll want to note is that when you're in the Edo, you're irrational. So this is an Edo from 12 Edo, 7 half steps, and from 41 Edo. When you go to the frequency ratio, now this number is irrational. And same thing going the other way. This is the whole reason why we are having this discussion at all. This is a challenge that has been bothering music theorists and musicians for a long time, and that's that we're trying to really deal with 2 systems at once, and one system is clean, the other is not. I do have a good demonstration of that down here. This chart is frequency ratios. So I show the harmonic series based on A2, which is 110 hertz. Multiply by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and higher. These are all nice and neat numbers. Now, if we go to our piano or our guitar, here's how we have to tune. Any note that's A is exact. However, you can see plus 2 cents, minus 14 cents, minus 31 cents, minus 14 cents. We can also just go to our piano and say, I want to play the harmonic series. Now we get all the nice piano notes, and here is the hertz that we're getting. And you can see now 110, 220, 440, 880, those look nice, but then everything else has a decimal point. Here, I won't do this, but I'll just tell you, this is a demo of doing the harmonic series in Ito's 72, as well as in Sense, which is 1200 Ito. This is because 12 times 100 is 1200. I want to show you this here. So now what we can do is play scores. So instead of, when you're writing out a score, I didn't know of a way to do this. It took me a little bit of time to come up with this, but then I realized, oh, this is exactly what I want, is just a score of frequency ratios. And you can do that. So let's see what this sounds like. Now, with something like that, what I can do is play those notes on the mosaic chord. Here is another one. Right now I'm showing you everything through synthesizers, but then what about the question of what about singers, fretless, like a string quartet, fretless instruments? What about those instruments? And really this connects with that. But the issue is, once you get your string quartet together, how are you going to tell them the notes to play? It does take a little bit of study, and this is part of it, and that's why it's good if you're studying to use a tool like this to really study the notes, because when you hand your string quartet this score here, there's very few string quartets that will have any idea what to do with those notes, unless they use a tool like this or the mosaic chord or this grid keyboard here. And but this is something that, I mean, singers and string quartet players and other musicians should be able to play and explore. It's just that when we limit ourselves to the piano, then that gives us, we can't really do that because we're in a limited mindset of tuning. How about a guitar? So I have taken a standard guitar and I've detuned the strings to get what's the 5 limit, to get prime 5. That means you have to, from 12 Ito, detune 2 of the strings. And I'm going to demonstrate this. This is a standard guitar here. One second. Let me do this. Now what I'm going to do is repeat. You can hear me play it as both standard guitar and as a synthesizer. time, I would play the same thing on mosaic chord as well, because I could do that as well. The notes are over here as well. But I did want to get to something higher up in the harmonic series, like some 7 limit, like what I played earlier. Hold on. I meant to do this for sure. All right. Now let me do that again. That was a little fast. If you want to hear me play that on a real kite guitar, it's right here on my website. The slides here are my website, GNULinux.love. I have 2 minutes for any questions. Yes.
Equal temperament gives you the ability to take any note and play, the same major third up from any note on a standard keyboard. So it lets you, shift melodies by just a couple of steps or transpose music quite easily between keys, stuff like that. I think that's why it was invented. Do you find that not having that ability when using harmonic ratios changes the process of writing music for you?
So, a question about equal temperament, how you have the same third no matter where you go. And I would like to say what's important is the translation between frequency ratios and Ito. And so when you're thinking of frequency ratios, that doesn't necessarily mean that you leave the Ito behind. For instance, you can get the same third in a different Ito. So I tend to think in larger Itos like 41 or 72, and you get the same benefit of that third is the same. You have more notes to pick from. And more notes can sound scary. However, you can pick, just as you start with 12 Ito with 2 or 3 notes, you can do the same thing in a larger Ito. So when you hear something like 72, you can still pick the same 2 or 3 or 7 notes, just a few of them are different. And you still get transposition through that. How about one more question? Here is flow software I like to use for music, and I would like to end by saying some things that should be obvious, but here they go. Flow software is the future of democracy. Together, we can liberate technology. GNU Linux loves all.